Hello everyone, this is week 3, video 2 for the first class. Here's Oaken. So first video, I did cleanup for our Boolean spoon. And today, now, we will get into working with curves. So that's going to be with NURBS and Beziers. And we will just do that this week. There's a lot of potential for using those that I will not get anywhere near touching on everything. But I just wanted to show you their potential. So, first I'm going to hide everything in my scene. So I can hit A to hide, or select everything, and then H to hide. So A selected everything, H to hide, and now let's make this full screen. Okay, so if you do Shift A, you're going to notice there's a curve section and a surface section. In the curve section, there's Bezier and there's NURBS. And then also in surface, there's NURBS. So each of these is different. Bezier and NURBS are different types of doing a curve, and the NURBS curve is different from the NURBS surface. So that's fun and confusing. Today I'm just gonna show you guys the curve Bezier and the curve NURB. So first Shift A, let's pull in a Bezier. Like if we put in a primitive, it's giving me a little guy to work with. There's different controls I could work with. But really, when you're working with curves, you're going to be going straight into edit mode. So if I hit tab, you can see it made this little line with arrows along it. And then it has 2 points that have handles. So I can use my basic transformation tools on these points as if they were vertices with a polygon mesh. So you can see I can move this around and it's adjusting that black line with arrows. You can see I can grab either of those, and then I can also grab my handles and move the way that it's directing the flow of the curve. So some of you may have worked with Beziers before in some Adobe software. Now, to actually make something out of this, I would go into it and actually do extrusions. So if you go on the left, you'll see some of the tools at your disposal. Extrude is really the main one you'll be using. And working with curves, I'd really get in the habit of using your hotkey, because I can just hit E, make an extrusion, E, make an extrusion, E, make an extrusion. I could go back in, use G as a basic transformation tool, readjust the way that curve is pointing. So I haven't made anything with this, I'm just showing you like what the formatting of this is. So this is the Bezier curve. You're working with the handles to direct the flow of the curve. And then for NURBS, so let me delete that. For NURBS, so Shift A, curve, NURBS curve. If I, again, go right into hitting tab, you can see it has something similar to the Bezier curve where there's that black line with arrows. But the points are looking a little bit more geometric. They're not looking too curved. And that's because NURBS is a calculation. So you're putting down points and then Blender is calculating what the curve would be between those points. So Bezier is more like you determining the curve, whereas NURBS, what does it stand for again? It's like not number. This is gonna annoy me. NURB. Non-uniform rational basis spline. So it's doing some calculations for you. Oh, that's my face. We want to go to Blender. Okay. Really, it'll depend on which one you prefer for which you're going to be working with. I've heard or like read that Bezier is more for more smaller exact details of curves. So if you're doing like logos or something, whereas the NURB would be more generic curves for like car modeling or such. But for us, we're gonna make a vase. So we get to decide which one we prefer. Am I not an object? There we go. Okay, so we are going to quickly make a vase just today. And we'll get into more potential of NURBS and Beziers next class. So I'm going to pop in a reference photo of a vase, and in this case I want to do like a side view. I'll just do front, and I'll load the picture I use onto Discord, but you're welcome to choose any kind of curvy surface, like a glass, wine glass or such that you so choose. So okay, Shift A, image reference, pictures, nonsense, face. So I have my reference image in here. I'm gonna just really quick grab this and move it a little bit back on my y axis. And when working with either of the curves, I recommend working in one of your orthographic views, because if you notice when I was just modeling just to show them off, I was kind of just placing the points randomly in space, and it doesn't really stick on one plane. But most of the use from NURBS is working in a plane and then bringing it off of that plane to either revolve around an axis or like loft up from it. So I'm just going to work in my front view, and I'll do the Bezier just because it's a little bit more complicated, where I'm determining how that curve is laying. I guess for NURBS I can show you really quick a brief. What am I revolving around? I'll just show you like a guesstimate of how I would work with the NURB in case you are more comfortable with the NURB. So for NURB it'd be more just laying the points, extruding until they get the kind of form you want. So you can see it's a little less exact because it's kind of you guessing what the calculation will be. So let's actually do Bezier though. So front view, Shift A, curve, Bezier, and it's automatically laying down. I want it in this up front axis, so that's like with Y or Z and X, not Y. So I'm just going to rotate it up right away. So I'm going to hit R to rotate. All of the basic transformation tools work the same with your curves. I want to revolve it, flip it up on that X axis, so hit X, and I just want to rotate it 90 degrees, so type in 90 and hit enter. And now in my front view, if I open up my editor by hitting tab, I can see my curve. So I'm right away going to move these down to like the start of my vase. So say the bottom's right here, and again, I kind of touched on this last time we used a reference photo, but I'm not going to trace this exactly because the bottom of my vase isn't rounded. It's just the perspective of the reference photo isn't ideal. And then you're going to start placing the points at like major changes in the curvature of this vase. So the bottom's just going to be flat, but it'll have a slight curve to start leading up. And then once I have that placed, I can start hitting E, place a point, E, place a point, and again, I'll go back and change the handles. For now, I just want to place my points at notable like changes of this profile. So I'm just gonna follow from the center of the bottom of the vase up to that top lip. So I'm not tracing that entire vase, I'm pretending it's cut in half at this z-axis, and then I'm just tracing half of it. So now that I've placed those points, let's go back in and fix those. So I'm just clicking on it and then hitting G to grab it. The closer those handles are to, my soft selection is like eternally on. So again, the closer the handle is to the point, the less dramatic of a curve. Further away, the more dramatic. I might have to add another point. So if you ever do need to add a point, I didn't explain, if you ever do need to add a point somewhere, so say I can't get this curve to line up in this bottom area and I need another point down here, I can just shift select the 2 points I need something between and then hold down right click, and you can see a menu set comes up, and I want to hit subdivide, and then you can see a new point appeared. So if you do need some and you missed your chance while you were making the original curve, you can go back in and add one pretty easily. How's this looking? So again, I'm just going to the handles and to the points, hitting G and moving them around. Since I am in my front view, I haven't been doing constraints on my move tool, and that's just because since I know I'm looking at this only in front view, it's not going to be moving at all in the y-axis. If I was in perspective view and moving them, I would want to be using constraints, but if I'm in an orthographic view, I can just go in, move them, because they're only going to be moving in these planes. Okay, so I think I'll leave it at this for now. So I have my curve tracing the profile of my vase. If I hit tab, I just have like an orange line. And now, with this orange line, I can go to my modifiers. So far I've just been using similar tools to poly modeling. So my basic transformations, I've been hitting E to extrude. And now I can again use something similar to poly modeling and add a modifier. So in your wrench section of my vase, name it a vase, okay. You can see I have a lot less modifiers available than with poly modeling, but a lot of these are actually the same. So the ones I'm going to be using for my vase, I can't find a screw. So screw is actually in poly modeling. You can see there's subdivision surface, and then there's one more, solidify, I'm going to be using today, which is also in poly modeling. So first I'm going to hit screw, and you can see this weird circle was made. And that's basically because the curve I made is rotating around, and it's just in the wrong axis. You can see if I put it on X, it's rotating around X, it's doing something weird. So I just want to make sure it's on the right one. So when I put it on Y, you can see I actually have a vase shape. And because our modifiers are non-destructive, I can go back in, so hit tab on that line, the orange line. I can go in, change any of these curves. I can even add some more if I need. And you'll see it reflected in the actual vase shape we just made with our screw tool, screw modifier. Things to note in this modifier is angle. So this would just say how far around it's revolving. So usually you're going to be going the full 360. But if you did want to revolve it, but not, oh my god, what? Somehow I typed 360, but it got 720. We also have steps, so this you'll see better if I look at this from the top. And if I pull this left or right, you can see steps is kind of similar to how many vertices are showing up with polygons. So smoother. So left, you can have it be a little bit chunkier, or more to the right, you can see it's getting smoother. So that's all. We'll probably mess with screw. There is one other option that screw has, which is like making this spiral effect. So if you need to make like fancy noodles or something, but we just want it to revolve and keep it relatively smooth. There is one other modifier I want to show though, and that's because, so right now if you look at this, this is just one very thin layer to our vase, and we want it to be like glass, so it'll have a little bit of thickness. So we will put on the solidify modifier, and you can see like a little lip formed. Let's just pull this around. You can see if you pull the thickness of solidify left or right, going negative is going to build that thickness into the vase, and then outward builds it outward. So let's just put a little bit of thickness on this, just so that it actually has some substance to it. And that's probably all we'll play with that. I do want to point out though that the order matters. So if I have thickness above screw, which is revolving it, you don't really see any of that thickness forming from solidify. So sometimes your order of your modifiers does matter, and you can change the order by just hitting those up or down arrows that are near the label. So we got a vase fully formed. Again, you can still go back in, alter any of those curves. You can alter any of your modifiers at this point. And I guess at the very end, I do want to point out that so this form that you're seeing right now isn't a mesh. This is just a surface. So if you did want to go back in and have vertices to work with, you can actually alter this, convert it into a mesh object. So if you click on your object, so click on your vase, go in the upper left where it says object. There's a convert to tab near the bottom, and you would do you would want to make a mesh from your curve. So if you hit that and then hit tab, you can see now I have all of my vertices, edges, faces forming up that surface. So usually you'll just need to do that if you do need to do like some more minor alterations, if you have like a handle coming off your vase. But if you don't need to make any alterations, you should be fine keeping it as that curve surface. So that's all we'll go over today. We'll be doing more with curves with the NURBS and Beziers next class. So I'll see you guys next video.